Hi again, friends. Something I need to sort out here. My last video got a whole bunch of views but no likes, and I know that I was talking about a very hard subject, and a lot of people don't like the thought of eternal suffering, even though it's a reality. But I was speaking to Mandela just a minute ago, and just even though he thought the video was worth keeping up, because I was wondering whether to take it down, both of us, after chatting, thought that it was incomplete, and I wanted to complete the picture. So here it goes. God went to the cross willingly and gladly. He suffers with the utmost joy. It's like a simultaneous thing. At the same time as suffering, he's full of joy. He knows that it's worth it, even though it was agonizing for that time. And even though the cross is eternal in some sense, there is a satisfaction to the fact that his people will be redeemed forever. The people who place their trust in him, he has made a way, and it makes all the suffering worth it. It says in Romans 11 that he trapped us all in disobedience so he could have mercy on us all. This is just the way he's worked it. He knew that free will agents would rebel against him, and this was his plan. This is how he found the most wise and best route around the whole fact that free will agents who rebel against him deserve hell, but he can redeem them, and he had to take the punishment on himself. Yes, in some sense he suffers eternally, but think about it. If you're married or if you've got kids, for the rest of your life you suffer in some kind of way, because you've got to put up with that person. It's like love covers a multitude of sins. We forgive each other's faults. And when you do that, when you're forgiving, when you're merciful, when you're sacrificial in that sense, then the joy of having that relationship comes through. And God wants that relationship with his church, not just for a time, but forevermore. He wants that relationship with us, who have received the fact that we are deserving of his wrath, yet we accept his grace and realize that we are nothing without him. And that humility is enough for Jesus to work with. You know, that was his glad and joyous moment, was also his moment of most extreme suffering, because on the cross he said, "Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing." They don't know what they're doing. He looks at me now, maybe I'm saying something wrong here, and he intercedes before the Father for me and says, "Father, Tris doesn't know what he's doing, forgive him," you know. And he's always done that for me whenever I've got it wrong, and he's doing it for everybody. But he knows that I have a genuine faith. He knows that I really try and love him with all my ability, and therefore the joy for him in the suffering is that he redeems me and makes me whole and gives me what I don't deserve, and that he can show the extent of his powerful love for me, simply by, simply, it's not simple at all, but with the divine exchange of guilty blood for innocent blood. I need to emphasize to you that God's eternal suffering was something he willingly does. Otherwise he wouldn't have made the world at all. You know, he looked at the world and said it was very good. It got corrupted, it got perverted, but he always knew that was going to happen. And because he's the lamb slain from the foundation of the world, he always knew that he would have to go to the cross, and he gladly and willingly does that. And he will be satisfied, it says, when he sees the results of what he's done. He will be satisfied, it says in Isaiah 53. So please don't get depressed, or it's really the most amazing, joyous, happy ending. I mean, God always intended to suffer for his creation because he loves us. And this is what I meant by love being the root, suffering being the root of love. You do it for your children, you do it for your wife, you do it for your friends. When you really love them, you sacrifice yourself for them, don't you? And that is because true love has this element to it, that it suffers on behalf of the other person. When the other person is right and good with you, there's no suffering involved, but all of us are guilty, and we deserve to be on that cross. That's the point. I was trying to glorify Jesus with my last video by saying that he, while we were yet enemies, he suffered and died for us, you know. We were his enemies, you have to understand. Yet he gladly does that for people who show the humility and the acceptance of the fact that they are wrong, you know. He loves that. He loves being the Lord. He is the Lord, but he wants to be the Lord of our lives. And when we acquiesce to him, when we give him his rightful place in our lives as Lord and Master, then he also becomes our best friend, our husband, our father. People of the world, they love Satan. They love his way. That's why he's their father. They're children of the devil, as Jesus called them. You know, it sounds really harsh to call someone a child of the devil, but that's what most people are. They love Satan. They love his way. They like their own, doing things their own way, and they're selfish and egocentric, and that's what we all used to be. We all used to be children of wrath, it says in Ephesians, right? But, you know, his grace has changed us. We're transformed. And the cross is what's accomplished that. That's why I was saying in the last video that the cross is the center point of history, or it's the center point of eternity, because everything revolves around it. You're either judged at the cross, along with the devil, who's your father, or you are saved and transformed at the cross, because Jesus took the punishment for you. And God takes the suffering, your eternal suffering, upon himself. This is the most amazing, such grace that is beyond belief. That he would die for me, a filthy, rotten sinner of an enemy of his, you know. And the least I can do is dedicate my life to him, and hopefully, you know, who knows, if I'm called to be a martyr, then I pray right now that I step up to the mark in that way, that I wouldn't let him down, that I wouldn't betray him, you know, because he calls us to suffer for him. And in Romans 8 he says these sufferings that we go through now are nothing compared to what he's going to give us, the glory of the resurrection and being found someone who's clean in his sight. And we need to put all of our focus on being a person he can be pleased with, you know, and taking it on the chin and suffering with him, picking up our own cross and denying ourselves and following him. This life, as depressing as it sounds to some people, is about suffering, because when you love, you suffer. When you love people, you suffer. You know, it's not just this airy-fairy, lovey-dovey thing that the world thinks it is. You know, real love is sacrificial, and at the end of the day, in order to live with Christ, we need to die with him. And the world will hate us because we're his followers. But the joy that's set before us for suffering like that is a parable, it's a picture, it's similar to the joy that was set before Jesus when he died for all of us. And it was his pleasure to go to the cross and suffer for us. You know, he predicted it so many times with the disciples, saying, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what's going to happen. And did he want to go to the cross and suffer horribly? Not that bit. He asked the Father whether the cup could be taken away from him, but he didn't shirk, because when you're actually confronted with that suffering, the flesh gets nervous, because, you know, we're designed to live forever. But all of us must die, and it just depends how you die. And Jesus glorified the Father with his death and brought many sons and daughters into his kingdom as a result. And we are to imitate that, so that we share in the glory afterwards, not because we deserve it, but because he's so gracious. So this is what I was trying to explain in the last video. The cross is pivotal to this, and this is why I don't think God's going to do away with this image of him bearing the sins of the world, because grace is the foundation of his character, you know, grace and mercy, as well as righteousness and justice. And at the cross we see all of that amalgamated together: righteousness, justice, mercy and grace, the hard and the soft virtues of God. So I hope that helps. I just wanted to complete the picture, because there were some people who didn't, or at least I didn't explain it very well, that this whole picture of suffering wasn't just this depressing horror, you know, because life is as hard enough as it is, without, you know, thinking, oh, the heart of God, the heart of the Creator is just suffering, and he's just created it to be this perpetually horrible thing. No, he at the heart of suffering is love, and true love, you know, real love, genuine love. And that's what we see displayed at the cross more than anything else. And then he fulfilled the cross with the power of his resurrection, that he overcame death, and that we can overcome death through it as well. So it's a massive hope, and I pray that you would find the joy in it, because yes, it can be depressing to think, you know, that we might have to die, and some of us horribly as well, like many Christians are across the world. But at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. You will stand there on Judgment Day, I guarantee you, and you will say, I see why you did it this way, Lord, and I appreciate it, and I believe you've done the most wise and trustworthy thing, and I give you all the glory. I guarantee you'll say that, because you will bow the knee and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord along with me. So that's the message. God bless you.